Welcome to Poor Uncle Joe's Sunday Afternoon Story. That was my co-host, Lemley, that was in the picture right at the beginning. He's a pretty good old boy, and he reminded me of this story that I have to tell you today. Now, this story happened about 20 years ago, maybe even longer. In those days, softball was very popular around here, and I started umpiring. I used to umpire with the same guy most of the time. His name was Lee. And Lee and I always got the best games on Friday night. Well, one weekend we were scheduled to do an 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, two separate games, one right after the other. There was also a game scheduled for 7. Unfortunately, that game ran very late. So Lee and I were standing around waiting for our game to start. 8 o'clock came and went, 8:15, 8:20, 8:30. All the players were there. Everybody was ready to go. The stands were full of people for our game. Now the players were starting to come for the 9 o'clock game. Well, finally that 7 o'clock game got over, and we decided, we got together with the two managers, and we said, let's get this game going as fast as possible because we still have a 9 o'clock game scheduled. So I said to Lee, I'll do the bases first and you do home plate, and then we'll switch for the second game. He said, okay. I walked out towards first base to take up my position when I noticed there was a young boy holding a dog over by the gate. Now this field's completely fenced in except for one gate over by third base. Just as we were ready to start the game, the kid opens the gate and the dog runs in. And he's running all around the field. So I walked over to Lee and I said, Lee, what are we going to do? He said, I don't want to chase the dog. I said, no, I don't either. I said, let's watch him for a minute or two and see what he does. Well, he was a nice dog. He ran around a little bit. Then he went out by the outfield fence and he just kind of laid down out there. So I said to Lee, maybe we can get the game going. Lee said, yeah, let's get going. We're really late here. So the batter stepped into the batter's box and I trotted back out to first base, and Lee pointed at the pitcher to go ahead and throw the ball. Just as he threw the pitch in, I noticed that the dog was on his way back towards me. He stopped right next to me. I'm hoping the batter doesn't swing at the first pitch. Sure enough, he swings at it and he hits it down the third base line. Well, I'm hoping that my friend Lee is going to call it a foul ball. And I'm watching him. And I'm looking at the dog. And I looked at him again. And Lee is pointing that it's a fair ball. Well, here comes the batter, and he rounds first base and he heads for second. Now, if there's a play at second, it's my call. I'm supposed to be right with the runner. He takes on, he was much faster than me. I was getting kind of old by this time. So I'm running as fast as I can after him, and he slides into second base in a big cloud of dust, and I'm about 30 feet behind him. I don't have a clue whether he's safe or out. Well, I have to say something, so I guess, safe. Well, I guess everybody else in the whole ballpark thought he was out except for me. Everybody starts screaming at me. All the players on the infield are yelling at me. The fans in the stands are all booing. I look down, and who's right next to me? But the dog. Well, I'm taking all this abuse from the players. I figure I blew the call. I can't change it, though. So I said, I got to get rid of this dog. So I grab him by the collar, and I start leading him off the field over towards that gate. And one of the fans in the stands for the next game yells out, this umpire is so blind, he's got a guide dog. Everybody in the place was roaring with laughter now. I looked up at my buddy Lee, and he's in there smiling too, so what could I do? I just let him off the field and let him go. So I guess the moral of my story is, if there's a dog on the field, don't start the game. That's it for today, folks. I hope you'll be back next week for another Poor Uncle Joe's Sunday Story. Thanks for tuning in.